All right, again, Jeff Gold with us. Jeff, your thoughts on that? And he really hasn't gotten into any of those specifically, but that's his premise. Your thoughts?
Well, look, there's a huge hole that Juan left because Juan talked about premeditation as if it was planning. There was one part yesterday where he mentioned it doesn't have to be planning. It could be just for a moment. But he kind of protected the idea that this was a plan. And by doing that, he left the defense this opening to talk about the covert mission. Because in reality, I think it's more likely that Jodi went to Travis's with the hope that they would become boyfriend and girlfriend again. And when that hope was dashed, then she killed him. And by the prosecutor not leaving that as a possibility, but talking all about the planning, all about the planning, all about the planning, it's giving Kurt Nurmi something to talk about when he says, look, if it was all about a plan, she should just come in and kill him. But that's not what happened.
Right. Okay, and that's my contention. I agree with you. And I think there are a lot of viewers that agree as well that she showed up with one last shot to try and woo Travis Alexander, to get Travis to take her to Cancun. Forget about Mimi Hall. I'm your girl for the rest of your life. But then the prosecution, obviously their thought is, from Jodi Arias, fatal attraction. If she couldn't have him, nobody could. So could Juan Martinez have argued that scenario? Did he have it to argue in court?
I think he could have mentioned it. He could have taken 5 minutes out and mentioned it. He did mention the theory that it has to be just a moment when he talked about premeditation, but he should have put in the possibility. He should have actually taken 5 minutes to explain something that many people think is what really happened. Why would she bring those CDs, memories? Why is she bringing memories to him? Unless what she's trying to say is, hey, we've gone on all these trips together. Maybe I should be going to Cancun. Now, some people say the Cancun thing is not really what it was about, but I believe firmly that it was about one last chance. Stalkers, people that are obsessed with people, always think there's a chance. Classic stalker thinks that he or she is going to marry a celebrity that she's stalking or he's stalking. So, that's what's going on here, and he should have spent 5 minutes on it. Look, he did a great job yesterday, but you can see the defense is exploiting a hole.
Yeah, and we had talked about that. Where are the openings? And Kurt Nurmi trying to go through those openings to potentially save Jodi Arias' life. Talk about that secondary theme he had. It doesn't make sense. And he went over the different themes here, the different points. The gun doesn't make sense. She could have gotten a gun from her own father. Matt McCartney had a gun as well. Why is she staging this burglary? Doesn't make sense. Your thought on that theme and some of those specific examples?
Well, of course, that's a classic defense theme. That's what defense attorneys do. They say the state's burden is to prove a case, and here's some holes. And if these holes are there, they don't have beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what they're doing, poking reasonable doubt holes. So, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit here. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I've been to, many of these, and that's a classic theme. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I remember hearing it in Sandusky. That's just a classic defense theme. So he's doing that, and he's poking.
Did any of those you think resonate? Because he went on with, the rental car. She could have just borrowed a car from a family member. Hair color, showed the pictures. You can see right here. She's got brown hair in May. I mean, was he effective or not in any of that?
We'll see how it all adds up, but he is somewhat effective. And again, I go back to the idea that he does have a hole to exploit, that the state was very heavy on a plan here as opposed to saying, look, she could have come here with the idea maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't. But if she made up her mind, a few minutes before or a minute before and then killed him, that's enough. I mean, I think Juan did a very good job of saying, look, here's a picture of a slashed throat. That meant she decided a minute before she was going to kill him. That's intent. But Nurmi is exploiting that with all these little things, and if he takes enough of those little pieces out, he's expecting the state's house of cards to fall, because a circumstantial evidence case depends on all these cards sticking together. You don't have somebody that says, look, I saw her kill him. So, these circumstantial evidence pieces are like a house of cards, and he's trying to take one out and one out and one out until it falls.
And we just don't know. That's what he's going for. That was the sound piece we played a couple minutes ago. He's trying to talk to one juror, find reasonable doubt with one juror, and save Jodi Arias' life. Let's get to where he left off. And he went through the specific opportunities that Jodi Arias had to kill him. Number one, if she was armed with a gun and a knife, why didn't she just show up? He's vulnerable. He's sitting there watching videos. Just shoot then.
That's right. That's the idea. I mean, if you're focusing on the state saying it had to be a plan, that's why he's used covert mission.
Yeah.
Because that's putting the state to say this was a plan, and I'm going to show you why it's not. He actually is giving up heat of passion. I mean, it's pretty clear he's doing that. We know that the defendant offered to plead guilty to second-degree murder at some point. So instead of going straight for it, though, he's poking holes. But we can see that's what he's going for. He wants this jury to say, you don't know what happened in here. You know that Jodi killed him, Travis, because she has admitted that, and you don't know anything more than that, and hoping that they will come with manslaughter, not just second degree, but heat of passion would be manslaughter, the lowest of the degrees of homicide that they have before them.
Got it. And
instructions, the jury can decide, some of them, that it's felony murder, and some of them that it's premeditated murder, and it doesn't have to be unanimous. That's very unusual. Many states, or most states, I would say, require felony murder to be unanimous or premeditated murder to be unanimous. Now, it still has to be unanimous for the second degree or for the manslaughter, but it's interesting that they could split and still have first degree by simply saying, we agree that she at least wanted to commit a felony here and killed him in the course of that felony. Other than that compromise, a compromise helps the defense because it would be second degree or it would be voluntary manslaughter. He at least wants to get a juror fighting for one of those.
Okay, got to let everybody know, Juan Martinez is coming back. And Juan Martinez, I'm sure, is taking notes, and he's going to go at these points that Kirk Nurmi's making, especially the doesn't make any sense portion. What do you think he says? Does he go that next level and come with some sort of a more specific motive? Where's he going, Jeff?
Well, as usual, Mike, you exactly got the nail on the head, because exactly what I was thinking about is, as I was listening to that clip, what is Juan going to do with it? Okay, if Kirk Nurmi continues to hammer the state for the covert mission and doesn't allow for the possibility of this secondary, way that it could have happened and still be premeditated, meaning she comes with the idea, one last fling, it doesn't work out, now I'm going to kill you. If he doesn't allow for that possibility, Juan gets the last word. And he can come in for the, bad pun, kill in this case, and make sure that the jury knows that's the realistic possibility. So he has a way now, because he has the last word. If Kurt leaves him an opening, he can come in for the final show and really make his point.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that. Again, you got Juan Martinez. So battered, right? That's still got to come up.
Yeah, two things. One, on your last point about Juan, and I bet you Juan is not going to do his rebuttal in hushed tones, okay?
Right.
Whenever he starts to think about Jodi being a liar, or Jodi, saying something that doesn't accord with the facts in his opinion, he's going to get tough. And on that rebuttal, I would bet Juan's going to be tough. On the second point is about how both parties have done this. I wouldn't have done it either way. Maybe I'm not that great a lawyer then, because I tend to go straight ahead at what I believe the truth is, and so most lawyers are not taught that. They go for something much higher and expect to get a compromise in the middle. That's how I negotiate settlements and everything else. Well, that means that Juan's going for the whole boat. It's a plan. The plan was from the beginning. This is all the premeditation. And the same thing with the defense here with the domestic violence. If I would do this closing, I would have done it exactly straight down the middle, that it was a heat of passion kind of case from the beginning. But that's not what you're going to hear now from Kirk Nurmi. You're going to hear now all the domestic violence. Poor Jodi. Jodi's the victim. Now, he's got to do it. That's the defense that he set up. But it turns my stomach, having heard the entire case. I don't believe there was domestic violence in this case. You notice how Juan Martinez basically discounted all the experts, right? Who did Juan Martinez use for an expert? He used Travis Alexander, saying, look, hey, Travis.
Let's listen to that. I'm glad you brought that up, because I thought he brought Travis Alexander back to life. He brought him into that courtroom. He was testifying from beyond the grave. Closing arguments and the theme right out of the gate: fear, love, sex, lies, and dirty little secrets. Has he brought that home? Another undercurrent theme that this does not make sense. Wrapping up there with, if Jodi Arias is such a liar and she had 2 years to think about it, wouldn't she thought up something better than this? Again, we'll be checking in with some of your comments as well. We've got Jeff Gold with us. Jeff, he's been inside that courtroom, outside the courtroom. Great defense attorney, following every moment of this. Jeff, Your thoughts here as we get most of Kirk Nurmi's closing statements out of the way. Has he been effective or not?
Well, he's doing what he thinks he has to do. It's the defense that they have chosen, and they have to continue with it. He's apologized, in a way, almost fallen on his sword for Jodi, saying towards the end there that, you know, Jodi, left to her own desires, didn't throw Travis under the bus, didn't talk about the domestic violence. Her initial reaction was to lie, but it wasn't to throw him under the bus. So therefore, implying that this is a defense that, you know, is created once you have lawyers and you think about what the proper defense are. It's not something that Jodi would have done herself. So in a way, falling on his sword. I thought that was interesting and effective. On the other hand, that we're, you know, this 9 out of 10 times I don't like Jodi Arias that we played before. I mean, you know, there was an interesting thing, I mean, where he says that and Jodi smiles, and we played that. Think about that for a minute. What is that? I think that's Nurmi and Jodi Arias interplay between themselves. So for 5 years, they must be doing something like that in the back room where he teases her and she likes it. Well, if she likes that kind of abuse, she probably liked it from Travis too.
Yeah, there's the reaction, by the way, just to let everybody know. That's the specific reaction that Jeff's talking about. I think it caught everybody's attention, and I know your take, Jeff, is that it was not effective, that you would not do that with the client. What do you think he was going for there? What was he? I mean, I know his overarching point was this trial is not about, and he reeled off certain points, and one of the things was it's not about Jodi Arias' likability. It's about the facts of the case, and that brought up the smile from Jodi Arias. But go ahead.
Well, right, no, Mike, that's the way he should have done it. Just as you said, it's not about likability, but instead it was almost Freudian. It was almost as if we had a window into how he deals with Jodi Arias all this time, that there's some teasing, there's a little bit of that going back and forth, because that's what that smile by Jodi, I think, meant, which is that she likes that. That's a little bit of push and pull. She likes it. Guess what? That explains all the stuff with Travis Alexander. She likes it. She wasn't abused. That's just the way she is. She likes that give and take. So I thought that was a big moment.
Right, and that's a great point by you, because we're wondering, okay, what is the jury doing with that? They see he makes the comment, got their attention, then they immediately are going to look to Jodi Arias, and there she is smiling. You know, what are they doing with moments like that in court?
Well, I guess we know why he wanted to leave the case then, right? Earlier on. I don't know if I would have done that. I get the point of it. I get the strategy of it. I don't like it. I don't think I would do that to my client. I just don't think that's necessary. I know what he means. There's another way to say it. I don't like the fact she did this. I don't like the fact she did that. I don't like this or that. And I'm glad Jodi got a rise out of it. I'm glad she got a bright spot in her, you know, path to execution here.
Few different scenarios of how vulnerable Travis was, whether watching videos, sleeping, pictures in the shower. She had multiple opportunities to shoot if she wanted to kill him.
Well, you know, I mean, it really is the odd part about this case, which is that the state's natural position in the case would be, as Detective Flores first thought, which is that the gun was shot first. She brought the gun. It shows premeditation. She shot him. But that's not actually their position, and it's being exploited a bit now. You know, also they mentioned the typo. The medical examiner finally testified that there was a typo. That came in response to a juror question. I think the defense entire strategy in not getting a medical examiner themselves, they're readily available experts. If they wanted one, they could get one. They didn't. Why? They liked the report that said that the dura, the outer layer of the brain, was not penetrated, because they held that as a secret weapon. And it went all the way through this case, through the direct examination and cross-examination and juror questions of Dr. Horn the first time. And then even on rebuttal, it went all the way until one juror asked the question of the doctor and said, "Isn't that a mistake?" And the doctor goes, "Yes, that's a typo." I think that screwed up the entire defense, because they wanted to say, look, you don't know what happened there. The doctor himself said the dura wasn't penetrated. So they've done this. They've talked about it now, but I think that the air is out of their sails because of that one juror question.
That's why we pay you the big bucks, to pick up on things like that. I mean, you think of how many months this trial has gone on, how many juror questions to Jodi Arias and the other experts, and it could have been one of the last ones that could play huge in this case. Great work, Jeff. Again, that's that keen legal mind. We appreciate that. All right. Coming up, that from Kirk Nurmi. Again, many of you thinking that's way over the line. Let's go to Jeff Gold. Jeff, is that what a defense attorney has to do in a death penalty case, or was it over the line?
Well, once they've determined that that's their defense, yes, that's what he had to do. But what's the other side of this when you listen to it? You know, Juan made an interesting point that I really didn't put together until his closing yesterday, which is why was that cell phone, that sex tape that we've heard ad nauseum already, why was it taped? Now, Jodi said it was because Travis wanted it taped. But really, Juan was making the point that Jodi wanted it. Now, why did she want it? To blackmail him, to have it against him? I don't know if you go so far as to say she was going to kill him and then use this as a defense, but maybe just to blackmail him. You know, she was the dirty little secret. That's what the defense is saying today. Well, guess what? What's the other side of that? The other side of it is that she didn't like that she was getting a motive now, that we've talked about it before, that's a motive for revenge. There's two sides to this coin.
Right. Well, let me make this point.
When he's saying...
Well, go ahead. Finish up your point, Jeff.
No, go ahead, Mike, please.
Well, okay, so here, I'll say this. I think Juan Martinez is going to come back with a ferocity concerning any pedophile allegations concerning Travis Alexander. I agree with you that we knew he would go there. I personally, listening to it as a human being, thought that was over the line. That Travis, you didn't have to, that line about let's hope he doesn't know what a 12-year-old orgasm sounds like. I thought, come on, enough's enough with that. Your thought, Jeff?
Again, I think he had to do it. That's the defense that he has chosen. I wouldn't have chosen it, but once you're on that course, once you're on that road, I think he's got to do it. But let's look at this. When you listen to that tape, you know what I hear? When you hear the other witnesses, Deanna, Lisa, what do I hear? I hear almost an entrapment by Jodi, almost as if she's pulling these strings. You know, she's the one who's doing whatever he wants to do, and she's the one that seems to be, you know, fine. So, all right, you're getting the guy's innermost fantasies. That doesn't make him a pedophile, frankly. What makes him a pedophile is acting on those things, and we don't know that he's ever acted on it, and all we have is this allegation that he looked at a clothed picture, and then these silly things about the Spider-Man underwear and pigtails and all that. It just seems like a bunch of hooey. I think Jodi Arias was pulling those strings and to get him and to get him and to get him, and when she couldn't get him, she killed him. That's the other side of the dirty little secret.
And Juan Martinez says never happened. We can't take her word for anything, and that she is trying to manipulate this jury. And to bring that point home, or at least Kirk Nurmi tried to do it, that Jodi Arias knew his little secret, and Jodi Arias was his dirty little secret. As we all experience this dramatic finish this case. Jeff Gold back with us. All right, Jeff, your thoughts on as Kirk Nurmi began to weave toward the day of the killing, and there he's trying to lay out self-defense. Only one's coming out alive. Effective or grasping at straws?
Well, it is their defense. It's what he has to say, but to me, when he said there's the 62 seconds, I don't know if he used the term 62 seconds.
I think he went 3 minutes.
You know, that time.
I think he went 3 minutes. Okay. I think he elongated his timeline, but go ahead.
Right. Well, you know, that's what he needs to focus on, because the mystery of what the heck happened inures to the benefit of the defense. The more the jury does not know what happened, the more they'll have a reasonable doubt that the state's correct. I mean, it's the state's burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt what actually happened. They don't have to do it second by second. They certainly have a circumstantial case that it was premeditated and that from blood splatter and everything else, it looks as Juan described it. But we don't know that. There was no videotape of it. There was no witness to it. It's not. There's no real admission to it. It's just Jodi saying what happened. So the more he focuses on the mystery of what happened during that time, or we don't know,
it's lost in the fog,
better
Jeff.
it is for the defense.
It's lost in the fog,
well,
right?
That's another. Well, that's what a defense attorney really wants. He wants, you know, the jury to be confused, because confusion inures to the benefit of the defendant inside a jury room. So, you know, that's what he's trying to do. And I suspect now when we come back, we're going to hear a lot more about that.
Yeah. And well, let's talk about it. Again, I think most agree. Best argument, Jane said it, you've said it, I agree as well. Best argument is if Jodi's had planned to kill him, why not just show up and shoot him? You don't want to get in a knife fight here. You want to shoot him. I think where he began to lose me, and I'll say this, and I want to get your take, when he started talking about the camera. And again, you think back, wait a minute. That doesn't make sense, that Travis Alexander would flip out over a dropped camera, and that's the reason he's going to come at Jodi Arias with a look of kill in his eyes, Jeff?
Absolutely, Mike. You've said that all along, and I agree 100%. It really just strains credulity to say that over a dropped camera. I mean, there was nothing. Let's talk about what the battered woman syndrome is about. The reason why women fought so long and so hard for such a defense is that when they were battered, they knew small things that the average person didn't, that when a husband or a lover or somebody like that came at them in a certain way, whatever happened next was foretold by prior acts. So in other words, I know when he's got that look in his eye and he picks up, a cane, not only is he going to pick up a cane, he's going to beat the crap out of me. So if there had been prior acts that would show that Travis had such a temper, then we might believe it. Now, did she try to say that on the stand? There were these prior acts, but they were empty. They were empty. That's why it doesn't strike you, Mike, and I don't think it's going to strike a juror, that Travis was the kind of person that when one thing happened like that, it would set him off in a murderous rage. There just wasn't anything in the case. A broken finger, even if you believe Jodi, even if you believe her, that's the most they got. So, yeah, the drop camera, and then she's afraid for her life.
And we'll talk about that.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, that theme of Jodi the victim, and we'll lay out for you what he said, slapping, kicking, broken finger, all of that. You think the jury's believing it? That's what's most important. All right, we come back. We will talk about that again. Kirk Nurmi, about thoughts on that. And Jeff, many people, again, just thought Travis Alexander was probably trashed today more than ever. It must have been so difficult for the family of Travis Alexander to have to listen to this, even though they probably knew some of this was coming.
A small point on that, and what a contrast with Juan Martinez's hushed tones describing what happened out of ultimate respect for the victim in this case. Look, I'm going to say a personal thing here. I'm going to watch this case as if I was a juror, and what I'm saying today is just about me, but I've had 7,000 or so criminal clients, my share of domestic violence defendants and victims involved in that practice. It doesn't ring true to me. He can put up all those elements that he wants. The victim of domestic violence usually tells someone, a best friend, they're stuck in a relationship, they want to get out, but for money reasons or kids or whatever else, they can't get out of it. She didn't tell anybody. There are no pictures. There are no police reports. There are no doctor's reports. Those are the things that would make it true. Now, we do know, hypothetically speaking, that there are these texts and emails and things that look abusive. So I think there's an element of abuse. But as Lenore Walker said, it's not about abuse. It's, was Jodi afraid for her life? No.
All right. And why was she a victim? She will say she knew Travis's dirty little secret, and she was the dirty attorney. You think the jury's buying any of this, Jeff, or is this just the world according to Jodi Arias, a known liar?
I don't know if they're buying it. From what I hear, of course, I've been, in the media truck listening to this, but what I hear from the courtroom is that they're paying attention, taking some notes. I think this is a great jury from what I've seen in terms of paying attention, so they're listening. I think that they'll have discussions on this. I think when we get to the question later in the day, I mean, it may be that they get, this matter at the end of the day. In other words, when we do rebuttal, after that, the judge has to determine, is she just going to give the case to the jury at that point? So at the end of today, they'll be able to decide. I don't think they'll decide that quickly if that happens. I think that they'll pick a foreman, maybe their hours, and then we won't do anything for the weekend. But I think they're very serious about this. There'll be a lot of discussion. You
mentioned the seriousness of this. A lighter moment. We got to let everybody hear this, Jeff. And I'm sure it stunned you and I. We're listening. Kirk Nurmi's in the midst of this intense closing argument. Someone's cell phone ringtone goes off. Let's watch that.
Because I'm not as concerned about things that happen on June 4th. I'm there to...
That's a song Dynamite by Teo Cruz on someone's ringtone. As we look ahead, Juan Martinez will have his rebuttal argument coming up. I think he's going to be more fiery than ever, and I think he's going to take issue with some of the attacks, character assassination of the victim, Travis Alexander. Your thoughts, Jeff?
I think you may want to play that song Dynamite for his rebuttal. I think that I'd be very surprised if he was in hushed tones during that rebuttal. I think we've got a short time for rebuttal. I think that he will make the most of it and throw some punches that will be very important to the case.
All right.
So
Jeff,
I'm looking forward to it.
Great work, Jeff.